Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Five Hole brought to you by Variety Sports Network. Today, we're joined with Aaron again. We've got a lot of things to talk about between the Panarin sweepstakes. Has been heating up a lot. We got deadline rumors going everywhere between Vander Kane. Who else was there? We talked about Kane a little bit last time. There's been Panarin. A lot of that's been kind of what we've always been talking about, but then also January's been kind of a little bit of a bigger month for the NHL, and then we also got standings. The Stadium Series game that's going to be happening today with Boston and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
We got all that stuff and more, so stick around with us because we're going to try to do this all kind of a quicker fashion today because we got some things to kind of go through. But first things first, kind of going and stepping into what we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks, especially with tomorrow being that kind of that last day before we get to the Olympic trade freeze. What have you seen, if not anything, if there's been more talk about Panarin or Kane? If I know that Dallas and Colorado have been two kind of big teams that we've kind of been hearing from some of these guys that they've had heard interest on. But have you heard anything more about either Panarin or Kane going through the rumor mill, Aaron?
Vander Kane, I haven't seen much. It's really just been the Panarin sweepstakes. And at this point, I will take him for a bag of chips. I'm just getting kind of tired of all this like rumors and stuff. Though, I feel like for Panarin, because I think like the Flyers I heard were interested, but I don't know if they want to commit to him. Like now, trade pieces and that. I think they just want to like legit sign him. I did see a rumor with like the Islanders, but I really don't think the Rangers would ever do that. So just because like Carson Soucy got traded doesn't mean that Panarin will be the next one to go to Islanders because they're a good team for him. I think he could sign an extension there. I think they would be because they're on a playoff push, so he would get back to the playoffs. Because I keep saying too that the Sharks are interested in Braden Schneider, and that's not a bad defenseman for him. So I think that would be a good package. And Colorado, Dallas, I think are out because I don't think they can sign him. I think they have to really like get rid of cap. And also too, like with Dallas, like Jason Robertson's your best player. Like he's better than Panarin just age wise. So like I would rather do that. But that's the only teams that I've heard of.
Yeah, I know we were talking, or at least I saw on X there for a minute. Did see that Panarin was really interested in going to Florida, and I think you and I and Brandon kind of all had chats back and forth going on about how we thought that something like that could happen for Florida. But I mean, unless there's like a really big just like cut in cash for Panarin between like either New York retaining money and then Florida just giving it just a outlandish, I think, package back to New York. I don't think that really something like that would be feasible for Florida just between the cap kind of room that they have going on. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, their cap is a little bit tight. I mean, does Bobrovsky stay? Is that why Panarin wants to go there? Like, he has 1 year left on his deal, which I guess is this year, and he's pretty much done. I mean, I understand it because, like we talked about last week, like he could be their Vladimir Tarasenko and be on like a second line, third line winger, and he'd actually like produce a lot with just that squad in general. So I think that'd be a good trade for him. But do you like him going to the Hurricanes? I feel like they're becoming the Tampa Bay Rangers all those years ago when Tampa just kept grabbing all these Rangers from us. So I feel like everyone keeps saying Carolina, but like, do you think that would be a good fit for him?
I think so a little bit. I mean, I did hear a little bit of talk that he was considering wanting to stay in the East. I think if he goes to a team like Carolina, it's not going to be that much. It'll be a little bit farther south for him. And the core and everything in Carolina, I think is going to be there for a while. So I mean, they just kind of started getting really in good runs, I feel like, for the postseason and for the playoffs. And I feel like if he's able to get there and get settled, I feel like that could be a pretty decent move, I think, for Panarin.
Yeah, I just feel like with Carolina, it's like they don't really commit to like big time people. Like we saw with Jake Gensel, we saw it with Rantanen just because it wasn't like a fit. But I just feel like Carolina has a hard time just keeping like superstars, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was it? I thought that I saw. I guess they haven't really traded anybody. I mean, I know they had a hard time really keeping Rantanen, which he didn't really fit all that well into their style of play, I guess. And then they moved off from Rantanen, and then they pieced him, not him, but they pieced Martin Necas to go to Colorado in that trade for Rantanen, which I felt like kind of hurt a little bit for Carolina because, I mean, you see what Martin Necas is already kind of doing in Colorado, so I feel like that was kind of hurt them a little bit, and then not really getting much back from Dallas for the trade Rantanen right back out, which I thought that was to me, I felt like that was a little bit of slap of the face for Carolina, but I don't know. I feel like this one could be a little bit different situation for Carolina because I think they're a little bit more structured now, and I feel like they could make this work a little bit better than what they try to do with Rantanen.
Yeah, I know that I think Svechnikov, I think, is a little uneasy with Carolina right now. I think that he feels like they're either not going to get a deal done with him, or I think he just wants a greener pasture. So, I mean, that'd be a good trade for us just because I do like Svechnikov, and I think he's like 25 or 26. So I think that'd be an interesting package with it. It's just, will Carolina trade in the division? I don't know. We're not like the Rangers right here. We traded Carson Soucy to the Islanders, I talked about earlier. Yep. I don't mind getting a third rounder for him. He was like 50-50. Like his plus minus was good last year, but this year it was like a -1. So he's just, I think our whole defensive unit that wasn't Adam Fox has not really been that good, so I'm okay with him getting traded to the Islanders. And he's like the 4th Ranger traded to the Islanders like ever, so I'll take it. And as far as like Andrej Palat with the Devils, that was just a salary dump for the Devils. I think that was good for them. So I'm not quite sure what they're trying to do, but the Islanders, I get it. The GM was with Palat in Tampa. But Palat is just getting old, man. Like the last.
I was going to ask you. We didn't really get a chance to talk about this much before you kind of said something about it earlier between the Islanders and the Devils for this trade. But I know we didn't really get to touch on it much before you kind of mentioned it earlier. But it seemed like more of a cap move situation and personnel move situation more than really anything.
I mean, do you think this helps the Islanders in any way?
Yeah, I think it does a little bit. I mean, Maxim, I don't know. I'm horrible with names. I would butcher his name, but I think Maxim, I feel like he was a prospect that was doing pretty well for them last year, and then he didn't really. I didn't really keep track of him much this season to really know if he's been doing better for the team or if he's been kind of back and forth. But I feel like with where the Islanders are at in the season, where they're at and kind of the playoff push, getting guys like Palat and Soucy, I feel like that could be a pretty good move in the right direction for him to get that veteran talent in and being able to kind of move away from something that was a question mark to something that is proven. I feel like that could be a good move for them for coming up in this postseason push.
Yeah, I mean, the best I can tell you about Maxim, he's Russian, so I really hope I don't get this wrong. But Tisplakov, he's 27 and he's been with the Islanders for 2 years, so obviously he can't be that great. I agree with the salary dump. So I don't know. I just think with Palat, he's 34. He's kind of like just declining. It's just it's an okay trade, I guess. More or less like they think he's going to be Tampa Andrej Palat, and that's not the case.
Yeah. But I thought it was kind of weird. I saw something too. I know I'm kind of jumping back to Panarin with this one, but I thought it was something I saw that was rumored that he ended up like cut down a trade from either Seattle or Washington. I thought I saw something like that where he already had turned down something from either the Capitals or from the Kraken, because I thought I saw something that Shane Wright was also something that they were trying to piece together into a trade to either move assets or get something in to do better than what they've already have been doing.
Oh God, they're putting Shane Wright in a Kraken trade for Panarin. I'm okay with that. I'm good. I don't need Shane Wright over here. I have enough problems, and he will be the 99th problem. So I can see Panarin declining Seattle. I'm a little surprised with Washington, just because maybe I honestly think this is Ovechkin's last year, and he's just not going to stay it until like the end of the season. So they have still good pieces there. So I'm a little, I guess, perturbed that he doesn't want to go to Washington. But I'm just curious if we do trade him, like, well, Washington, I think he still wants like the 11 mil, I think, a year or somewhere like crazy. So it's like, well, Washington ante it up for Panarin, who I've said it before. I'll say it again. He's been shrinking a lot in the playoffs recently. So it's just like, how much trust can you put in him for the money that you're going to give?
Yeah. Another thing I did kind of see and wanted to talk about was with the Calgary Flames after they got rid of Rasmus Anderson and kind of listing off guys that they were trying to get rid of with Nazem Kadri, Blake Coleman. Then you see guys for like, wait, Zach Whitecloud. I thought he was with Vegas already. But and I guess with where Calgary is at, is this something that you think teams look at somebody like Coleman or Kadri as better alternatives for somebody like Evander Kane if they are looking at cap situation?
If I'm Kadri, man, you know what's funny is I feel like he likes to stay in Canada. I would try to get a trade to Montreal.
I haven't thought about that one. That would probably be a decent trade. I don't know how they would piece that one together, but I feel like that could be a decent one.
I know Jeff Gorton, and if he knows this can make it into the playoffs or like this like good piece that'll help the team, he will find a way to do it. And I think Nazem Kadri would be perfect for it, because I mean, we can't always say the Stars or the Avalanche. It's just because like, yeah, right, they're a good team, but like, how much can you give up to get players like this? Even though Kadri's like 35, he's still like playing at an elite level, and you could easily put him as like a solid 2. Was he? I think he's a center, right? So like a solid 2C. So it's like, I think Montreal's your best bet, because you could probably get some young guys for it. But the one that I'm kind of concerned with, and we did talk about a little before we came on, was that the Wild are open to trading Wallstedt. I like it and I don't like it. Well, I'll have you talk about it first before I start it.
So I saw this one, I think it was earlier this week, and that they were open to trade talks for Wallstedt, which I know they have Gustafsson, and he's been doing good for them over the last couple of years and everything. But you have a prospect that's coming in. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but you have a new goalie that's coming out of as a prospect that's doing as well as Wallstead has been doing, and you're saying that you're opening to trade him. I get it that you got to go between either Gustafsson or Wallstead, but I mean, hell, he's lower cap, and I might be looking at the situation wrong, but you have a lower cap guy in Wallstead, and either him or Gustafsson. I would think they would want to go with Wallstead, especially with where they're already at in the playoff race. I personally don't see a reason why they would want to trade Gustafsson, or not Gustafsson, Wallstead. This one is a little mind-boggling to me. I don't know if you knew much more about this one or anything, but this one seemed very irregular to me for Minnesota.
I mean, we do talk about it a lot. Well, I mean, I've talked about it a lot too. When you're in the playoffs, like, you need goaltending, and a lot of teams, they have really good either, like, front six or blue line's okay, but their goaltending is trash. Like we saw with Colorado with Alexander Georgiev. They thought, like, oh, he could be Darcy Kemper. No, it didn't work. I think what the Wild are trying to do, because he's 23.
Yep.
I'll find his salary cannot be that much if they're put him on the trade block. But I think there is a team that could possibly trade and give them players that can help them in a playoff push. Florida Panthers. Yeah, you have Bob, but what's going to happen when Bob leaves if this is really his last year? He has 2 cups. What more does he have to prove? They got rid of Spencer Knight. He's in Chicago. They got rid of I was going to say Askarov, but that is in San Jose.
Yeah.
I can never think of the other goaltender, but he's in Toronto. They got rid of him. Well, not got rid of, but he went away. So if you're the Panthers, Stolars, yeah, Anthony Stolars, thank you. Jeez, I don't know why I couldn't think of him. I can never think of his name. I don't know why. But if I'm the Wild, I need some center help. Anton Lundell, why not? I mean, the guy's young too. That would be a pretty fair trade. I mean, obviously they'll probably add more stuff in there, but I think the Panthers would be a great team for Wallstead to help him. I mean, I don't want to say win a third, but help him win a third.
Yeah, but I mean, too, this is like probably one of the first few seasons that we've seen Bob kind of slacking a little bit in that. I don't know if slacking is the right word, but it hasn't been his usual like top tier goalie self. I feel like in the net this year, and that could be a token too that you don't have. I mean, that team has been so injury riddled this entire season. I don't know if that's something that you can really put all on Bob for having the lackluster of a season that you had compared to previous seasons, or it could just be like how we talked about last week or the week before. You've had 3 longer than any other team in the NHL, and you've been playing consistently more hockey year in and year out, and that this could be just one of those years that you have just kind of just fallen off. And I mean, going out and getting a guy like Wallstead from Minnesota, it could be something that you're moving off of. I don't know if you move off of Tarasov, but I mean, it's something that you could easily probably scratch him, bring in Wallstead, and then move pieces out to maybe bring in better goaltending just in case that Bobrovsky isn't playing to his normal level of play once you get closer to the playoffs, if not if you get into the playoffs.
Exactly, yeah. And I think the Panthers would be a better choice. And I talked before we came on, Calvin Pickard was released by the Oilers. If you wanted to, you could put him as the backup to Gustafsson in Minnesota. So I think that worked out for both teams. You got a good center in Lundell. I mean, obviously you're going to add some more stuff because the trade deadline.
Or I just thought about this because one of the other topics we have is that the Blues and the Thomas from the Blues is out for several weeks, but what if you include Bennington on a trade and you bring in Wallstead to the Blues?
All right, let me ask you this: would St. Louis fans be okay with that? Because Bennington's their Stanley Cup winner.
That's going to be a question that I'm not sure how we would answer, especially because how well Hofer has also been playing in the net, and then you bring in a guy like Jesper Wallstead, and then it's just going to be competition, I think, for that spot, which isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah,
it's not a bad thing, and I feel like in the NHL to be competing for that spot, because if you get in a spot and you just feel comfortable, then it can lead to instances like what we're seeing in St. Louis for Bennington, I feel like, and how he's had lackluster or a very bad year this year. I'm not saying it's comfortability, but it's something, and I feel like if you're doing something like this, then I thought I'd throw it out there.
But. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Thomas is going to waive his no trade clause to go to a playoff team.
Oh, for sure. If it were to happen, I feel like it would for sure be something like that. But I mean, with him being injured right now and not being in the Olympics, that's probably something too that they're thinking over. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
But moving on to our next topic, we got a little bit of standing stuff to kind of talk about. Let's dive in for the East stuff first. Let's see here. So,
love that 10 spot.
Wild card stuff. Right. So kind of with this, the East is what we've talked about week in, week out. It's always been a little bit of a tighter bubble. Higher point teams might miss with the division and the wild card format. Are you still kind of a little bit surprised that the wild card race is kind of situated with how it is, with you getting Buffalo and Boston kind of in those two spots? I think we talked about this a little bit before, that we could have saw Buffalo kind of inch their way closer into a playoff spot, or if not into one of those top three spots, with how close everything is kind of presented itself, I guess, for the East in the wild card race this year.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one I'm kind of like questioning, but it's like a wait and see, is Columbus, because they're like 9-1 in their last 10, or like 8-1-1 or something like that. And the fact that they have 61 points, everyone thought they were I believe 3 points above the Rangers like 2 weeks ago. Like, they're dead sellers. Now they have 61 points, competing with Washington, and they could possibly get the second wild card spot from Boston just because of how they've been playing with Rick Boas. Like, it's crazy to me that Columbus is getting so underrated. But Buffalo, I don't know, man. Maybe it was the GM. Maybe Kevin Adams was just so bad that they just didn't want to play for Buffalo anymore. And last year, too, with Bagula, that he went into the locker room, like, was it like the first month of the season last year, and like was trying to hype up this team to like, come on. But like, Buffalo fans deserve this. They're like probably one of the most diehard fans, whether it's the NHL or NFL. So the fact that they're the number one wild card, I mean, I can't really say anything bad.
That's, to me, it's crazy. I didn't think Buffalo was going to get in that position earlier in the season, and then they went on that big run a couple weeks ago, and then it just seemed like they're right there in the freaking mix, and it's a little nuts to see that they're playing as good as they are. Because going kind of dwelling into where is it? The Atlantic, because that's where, yeah. So if I remember correctly, Buffalo, they were more in like that 6, 7, 5 position, somewhere in there earlier this season, and now they're in the 4th spot. I mean, yeah, they're 2 points behind Montreal, 3 behind Detroit. I mean, is this something that we could see? Do you think Buffalo kind of kicking Montreal back into a wild card spot, or do you think Buffalo is going to kind of stick into one of those wild card spots?
I would, if I'm Buffalo, I would just stick in the wild card. I wouldn't even try to touch the top three, just because I feel like you're doing good. You're on this run, but you're not that good. That makes sense. I mean, Alex Lyon has been the most underrated, I think, goaltending signing, because he has just been killing it for Buffalo. I think he's won like 8 straight starts with Buffalo so far. So yeah, they've got a lot of things going on. I mean, crossing fingers, knocking on wood, like Tage Thompson stays healthy for the Olympics, and Rasmus Dahlin stays healthy for the Olympics. So that way, everything just keeps flowing with this team. But yeah, I would just stick to the wild card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. That is completely fair. I mean, they're doing good enough now to where I think they would be able to do well in that position. I think with the playoff format, with being the top wild card spot, wouldn't they play against, I guess, whoever's second, I guess, overall in the East? So that would be, I think that would be either, it would be either Tampa or
Carolina.
Who would that be? Yeah, it'd probably be Carolina. Do you think that would be a good matchup for Buffalo going, I guess, into that first round of the playoffs if it were to end up in that way?
No, absolutely not. That would
That's
be
why I feel like
that would be a great series for
making
Carolina.
that push to try to get in that. Yeah. Or do you think it would be an underdog thing where they come out and actually somehow surprise everybody against Carolina? No, you don't think so?
I don't think they're that Columbus team that shocked Tampa all those years ago.
That's fair. Kind of dwelling on the Columbus Blue Jackets now. Kind of looking at the Metro, if it decides to pop up for me. Here we go. Yeah, we have Columbus now sitting at 61 points, and with the kind of the heater that they've been kind of going on a little bit too here as of late, they're finding themselves 6 points outside of a playoff position, and especially with how them and some of these other teams have been playing up to this point. I mean, Pittsburgh has been really dialing it up. Carolina, they've been doing well like they have been the whole season. Is this something that do you feel like with how, I guess, the Islanders have been doing and the two teams that we have in the wild card with Buffalo and Boston, do you feel like this is something that Columbus could make a run to push one of those teams out of the wild card position, or do you think that they're kind of running out of time a little bit?
I think they have enough time. I think that the Islanders, even though we just talked about the trades that they had, like the way Matthew Shaver's been playing, I think Columbus can go atop the Islanders for the 3 spot in the Metro. Like, I feel like Rick Boas is helping them out, like, defensively, because they've been very, like, wishy-washy around the blue line area. So the fact that they, like I said, I think they're like 8-1 or 9-0, whatever it is, the last 10. I think if they make like one more move, because their goaltending's a little sus. So like maybe if you bring in a Calvin Pickard, or they trade for a Wallstedt, I don't know if they would have anything for Wallstedt, but maybe Pickard can help you out, because I mean Elvis has just been he's just been that. So nothing. Yeah, I think Columbus can take the 3 spot from the Islanders.
Because they've been 9-1-0 in the last 10, and they've won their last 5.
Oh,
whereas the Islanders, they've only been 5-5 in the last 10. So
yeah,
I personally feel like they could take over that third spot in the Metro easily if they keep playing at the pace that they are playing currently right now.
Yeah, for sure.
With kind of that, and then with how like some of the things that they've been kind of going on in January, they set something from what I saw that there was a record set for the most hat tricks set in a month of January, and saw that Coyle was kind of one of those guys that kind of led that bit with against Chicago. What did you feel like kind of with some of the stat and everything, especially with us just kind of talking about Columbus and the run that they've been on?
I mean, it's good because Charlie Coyle, like, people don't remember that he wasn't a bad player, like, especially for like Boston. Like, he wasn't too bad for the Avalanche last year. Like, he helped them with that playoff push, but he's not a bad player. And the fact that they just kind of like shipped him off to Columbus, thinking like, oh, he's just gonna like quote unquote like die in purgatory just because it's Columbus. But the fact that like that team and with him on it and started all the hat tricks, which is crazy to think that happened in a month. I think it's been pretty well for Charlie Coyle, in all honesty.
Yeah. I guess with the East, is there any surprise teams that you've kind of seen? I know we've kind of touched on it different times throughout these last few weeks, but has there been up to this point? Is there any new surprise teams, or you feel like it's been kind of relatively where things are kind of should be shaping up?
I feel like things are kind of shaping up. I'm still a little surprised on Pittsburgh, but maybe just because they don't know what's going on with Sidney Crosby and the fact that he's rallying this team. Like, he got really emotional with his last cup win yesterday with 2016. They had a tribute video against the Rangers, so that was cool to watch. I'm being sarcastic on that one. But yeah, I think the Pittsburgh is just like the weirdest one because everyone thought that they weren't going to do anything. And Kyle Dubas, they can say he was a wizard in Toronto, but it really wasn't Kyle Dubas that created everything for them to get who they wanted. He was just kind of on the sideline. And then we really saw what he was in Toronto when he was the GM and just nothing was working out. So the fact that I think I think it's been like 3 years since Kyle Dubas has been GM for Pittsburgh. The fact they're a 2 spot, they bring it back Evgeny Malkin, they trade Tristan Jarry for Stuart Skinner. They're making all these moves. Like I'm just surprised they're the 2 spot.
Yeah. We did have one comment that says how we felt about the Dome trade. And then
I thought that was great on both sides. In all honesty, I mean, JJ Peterka got his extension with Utah. Like, Doan is not actually, but he is playing better than I think I saw a stat the first 56 games than his dad did, and his dad's a Coyotes legend. So I think it was good for both.
Yeah, and then one other comment that we had so far for same person for Letang out 4 weeks is a bummer, but there is a break, so it should help out with the old help the old man out.
Yeah, I don't want to see Pittsburgh good. I've seen them enough in my life in the 2000s and 2010s. So, but I guess it's good for Chris Letang.
Yeah. Anything else I wanted to kind of touch on before we move over to the West?
No, let's move over to the Wild Wild West.
All right, so we'll kind of go in reverse from what we did with the East, and we'll talk about a little bit of the Central first. Then we'll go to the Pacific and kind of nail down what the rest of the way with the wild card teams. But first off, with the West, with the Central, nothing else has really been. I feel like has really changed over the last week since we talked last with it. I feel like Colorado's still kind of a little bit on the a skid, kind of. I mean, I just looked at it. I think it said something about them being 4-5-1 or something along those lines in the last 10 games. So I mean, they're 4-4-2 in the last 10. So I mean, they're kind of, I wouldn't say taking a backseat a little bit, but the run that they went on like they had at the beginning of the season, and it's definitely kind of cooled off a little bit, but not to the point to where, I mean, you're still 7 points above Minnesota, and I feel like it's gonna, with them having a break coming up with the Olympics, I feel like that's something that they're be able to come back from the break and still be rested up enough that where they might be able to get something back going, kind of like what they did at the beginning of the season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they've definitely cooled off like a lot. And I think what's interesting too is that every other team has been playing pretty well, like trying to catch up to Colorado. So I think that's why what we talked about a little bit earlier in the show. Make sure you guys check that out with the Wallstead comments. Like I feel like Minnesota just wants some more pieces to catch Colorado because they're not that far back in points. We all thought Colorado was going to run with this, like they were going to be the old Red Wings, where they have like 110 points already. So I think with everyone kind of seeing that Colorado's down, they're all trying to chomp at them to get closer in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what we looked at last week, I think both Minnesota and Dallas were back. I want to say it was more than at least 10 points. I think they had at least 10-point gap on them, and now you're looking at the standings, and you only have, 7 points from Minnesota and 8 points off of Dallas. So, I mean, they're not that far behind Colorado. And, I mean, with them cooling off like they have and Minnesota and Dallas kind of working everything that kind of like how they have as well, who knows? We may see either Minnesota. I would probably say it would be more Minnesota than Dallas, that we could see potentially one of those teams over top Colorado at some point if Colorado doesn't get to going back again.
Yeah, I hope it's Minnesota just because Quinn Hughes, I think, is like the fastest to get to 25 assists or something like that for like a new team. So who knew that Quinn Hughes would be this much of an X factor for Minnesota?
Yeah, another comment that we had is those are my Rushmore guys. 3-on-1 team is amazing.
For real. Yeah, as a Rangers fan, I don't like any of those Penguins.
I didn't see that comment whenever we were kind of still talking about all the Pittsburgh stuff, but yeah. I guess anything else that we want to touch on the Central before we kind of move on to the Pacific? I'm still struggling with the fact that the Blues are where they're at in the division, but that's to each is their own. They're struggling this year hardcore, and I'm hoping to God that we stay in at least somewhere the position we're in. That way we can get somewhere in the top 5 draft pick.
Yeah, and I loved Sean Durz the other day, pretty much like going after that guy in the penalty box. That was
cool. I thought that was hilarious. I saw him going after, I can't remember who it was on that game, but after the fact that like he gave him like the hug around his head, tore his helmet off, and then said what he said after he got back to the bench. I'm not going to repeat it, but because there's a little bit of foul language in it, but I thought that was very well said by Sean.
Yeah. And the fact, and I'll say too, I'll give you guys credit, like Jimmy Snuggerud is going to be a good guy.
Utah should be in as a wild card. They have so much talent, and they don't need another lotto pick there. I hope Seattle got a lotto and move up there as opposed to the wild card. They are a good team. Utah, I would imagine, is one of the teams, especially after they moved out of Arizona, and just seeing how they've been kind of holding themselves this season. I know last year they kind of struggled, but this year I'm actually I've been impressed by Utah for the most part.
Absolutely. As I said, I want Artemi Panarin either there or San Jose. I feel like he would help that team so much. Yeah, I can tell by your picture. You really love the Rangers too. I will say though, the Islanders have been smoking us this year, so I can't deny that.
And then this one as well.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for him. Like just to be like in the league. Like they need to hurry up with TJ Ginla.
Yep. All right. Moving on from the Central, going on to the Pacific, and then we'll talk about some wild card teams that we are having to deal with. Right now, we still have Vegas top of the division. Well, actually, tied with the division with Edmonton at 64 points. Seattle is at 61 points. and then so on and so forth with LA and Anaheim at 59, San Jose at 58, Calgary at 50, and Vancouver holding up the bottom of the league at 42 points. Yeah, what are we feeling with Pacific? I mean, I don't really follow the Pacific all that much since I'm a Central fan, but I feel like it's something that I feel like with how the way that Edmonton is playing, I feel like they could potentially get into that top spot over Vegas because I think Vegas has been struggling too.
They lost like 4 straight, I think.
Yeah, they're on a little bit of a downward slide. They've lost 4. Their last 10's 4, 4, and 2. So I mean they're struggling, but I mean Edmonton isn't too far behind them because they're 5, 4, and 1 in their last 10, but they've only lost 1 game. They have a 1-game losing streak, so it's not like they've been losing abundantly, like unlike what Vegas has been.
Yeah, I know Kopitar came back from I guess he was hurt for like 11 games, so maybe that helps the Kings and like the Anze Kopitar tour, like we saw with Ovechkin last year with the goal scorer. Maybe that helps the Kings stay in the playoffs or in that playoff hunt. Seattle, like I like Joey Daccord as a goaltender. I just don't understand their team. Yeah, they're the 3 spot, but I don't know. This is a weird team. And then Anaheim, I heard about them in the Panarin sweepstakes just because of Joel Quenneville, but they don't want to sign an extension.
Yeah,
for Panarin.
That's one thing that Panarin wants. If he gets traded, he is definitely wanting an extension.
Yeah, so I still have hope for San Jose. They're still a really great team. I have hope for them for the second wild card. Really pulling for them, but yeah, I think you're right though. Edmonton might take the top spot. Vegas has just been very inconsistent this year.
Yep, they're not like the Vegas of previous seasons where they've been notorious top team and just a thorn in everybody's side. This year, they definitely have seemed like a team that's not quite there at the top and that they could give it up at any point. And Edmonton has just been playing decent enough to where I feel like they could easily take over that top spot.
Yeah.
We got another one with, especially with San Jose this time. I would definitely agree on them being a sleeper, especially with how they've been kind of. They've been one of those teams that they've been at the bottom of the league for the last several years, and all of a sudden, with Macklin Celebrini being at the helm of that team now. It just seems like they are just absolutely crushing it, and I hope to see them in a playoff position because I think that would be really good for them. But I'm actually kind of surprised with how San Jose has been doing this year.
Yeah, like their rebuild in quotes is going a lot faster than they thought. And if they make it to the playoffs, Barclay Goodrow will be good. He's a playoff hero. He's not a regular season guy.
Yep. Before we kind of go into wild card, was there any surprises, I guess, with the Pacific that you noticed?
Not really. Everything kind of looks the same. I mean, maybe Seattle. I thought they were going to be like in the 4 or 5 tier. So the fact that they're 3, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Kind of getting into the wild card mix of things. We got Utah and LA kind of sitting in the 2 wild card spots for the West. They're both at 60 and 59 points. And then you see the long list of teams below them that are at 59 points, 58, 56, 51, 51. I mean, it's not as close, I would say, as what we were looking at with the East, as we've been saying for the last several weeks. But I mean, they've been. There's a couple teams that are kind of right there on the cusp of things, and I guess I know you said that the San Jose could be potentially one of those teams that takes over one of those spots. Do you think they take it? Well, do you feel like they take it over from LA, or do you think they would take it over from a team like Utah?
If I'm Gary Bettman, I would call up owners and say, "Let's San Jose and Utah in. We need some fun and excitement in the playoffs." I
I
think
could
those
see
two
it.
teams would.
I mean, LA, I think they've been one of those teams that's kind of been at the same kind of point. I mean, they haven't really been struggling as much. They're 5-2-3 in their last 10. But the San Jose, I mean, they're 5-4-1. So I mean, I would say they're both kind of the same stigma, but the fact that LA has more overtime losses than what San Jose has, they've been able to capture a few more points than San Jose. So that's kind of a give and take. That you could potentially see them in a wild card spot over San Jose. That being more or less probably one of the reasons why.
Plus, I'm getting tired of Edmonton Kings in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a thing that, I mean, yeah, we've seen them in the playoffs as a matchup for the last several years. I would love to see it change at some point or another, just because it's always been something that we've seen over the last several years. I don't know exactly what the number is, and that's probably the reason of why I'd rather see something new. And now, if we see Edmonton or San Jose or Utah and Edmonton, I feel like those would be good matchups.
Oh, that would be crazy. I would love the San Jose Edmonton just because I keep seeing Celebrini for MVP. And it's like that's
Celebrini against
basically
McDavid.
Yeah, Celebrini against McDavid.
That would be sick.
Amazing for the sport.
Yep. And there was one comment before over this past week that I did see Celebrini that he made a comment about McDavid that he was hoping that, I think it was something along the lines of, he wasn't looking forward to playing him again before the break, but he couldn't wait to play with him in the Olympics.
Fair. I mean, we saw it with Seth Jarvis. If you watched the hockey show on Amazon, like he was soaking it in with just even the Four Nations. He was just soaking in with like Sidney Crosby, McDavid, like all these guys. So I think that's gonna be great for Macklin Celebrini. Like, and also too, like to learn how to be like not a better leader, but like a leader for his team.
Yeah. I think it would be cool for him. I mean, we have seen top prospects coming out of the draft, and I mean, we've seen Connor Bedard, who has been kind of a little bit more of a lackluster, I guess, first overall pick. I mean, he's still been doing decent, but I would say not to the caliber that what we've been seeing coming out of Macklin Celebrini over the last couple of years, or at least this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also saw it too, where it was like he scored his first goal. It wasn't even like he really scored it, and they were already comparing him to Gretzky. And it was like, don't do that.
Yeah. I guess anything more that we want to kind of touch on with the wild card race with the West before we kind of move into talking about the Stadium Series game that's going to be going on here in another hour and a half with Boston and Tampa Bay?
Yeah, just one thing. St. Louis, they still have a chance. They're only 10 points out.
I don't think it's going to happen for us. As much as I want to see it happen, like what we did last year, I don't think it's going to happen this time around, guys.
All right. No magic here, I guess.
No. As much as bad as St. Louis has been playing, and I mean, they've had their off and on games over the last couple weeks. That game, I don't know if you watched much of the Florida St. Louis or saw any highlights from it, but that was for us like our 90s night kind of game, and that went back to like a 90s style game where there was an abundance amount of penalty minutes and everybody was going at each other, and the way the game kind of ended out and how the whole game went, that was probably one of his best games of the season, if not the best game of the season. But
yeah, absolutely.
I don't have high hopes, especially after how the game went. I can't really say that against the game against Columbus last night, because Columbus has been playing good, and St. Louis has kind of been kind of off and on, but I thought they did decent against Columbus last night to keep it to a 4-3 or 5-3 game, but it was still fairly decent, but I don't see anything happening like what happened after the Four Nations break for St. Louis this year.
Yeah, I was just trying to be semi-optimistic for you.
Oh, I know. I appreciate it. But kind of moving into the last topic that we had for today was just wanting to touch on the Stadium Series game against Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I was going to see who do you think is going to be coming out more on top for this game? Because I know both Boston and Tampa have been playing exceptionally well over the last 10 or so games, and it seems more of a evenly matchup game this time around because I think Boston's at like an 8-1-1 and Tampa's at like a 9-1-0 over the last 10 games. But what's some outcome you think potentially of who would be the winner of this game?
I'm gonna go Tampa, but in overtime. I think it's going to be one of those kind of games. I think Jake Getzel's going to get the overtime winner. It's going to be a good game. So whoever, has ESPN or if you have it on your phone, just like you need to watch that game because it's going to be a juggernaut. I didn't think Boston was going to be like this because they are just terrible at trading prospects. What you name it, they've been terrible at it for the last 10 years. So the fact that they have with Marco Stroman, the way that they've been playing, this is going to be a fun game.
Oh yeah. Do you think that the injuries to Lindholm and Zacha are going to be any much of a difference for Boston today, or do you think they're going to be just like how they've been over the course of the last 10 games or so?
Is David Pastrnak hurt?
No, I think he's healthy.
Then they're good to go.
Bold prediction for this game, surprise hero goalie duel, or do you think it's going to be more of like a chaos game where it's just going to be all offense, no defense?
I think it's going to be a goalie duel. The fact that you have Swayman and Vasilevsky going up against each other, I don't think we've seen it in the playoffs yet. We should. That would be a really good playoff matchup. But the fact that you have those two goalies going up against each other, I think it's not going to be easy. It's going to be like a ticky-tack goal or something like that that's going to make them lose the game on either side.
Cool. That's all I really had for today. Do you have any last things that you want to touch on before we close out for today?
Just real quick. Patty Kane surpassed Mike Modano for points the other night. They did lose. No, did they lose? No, I think they won. They won 4-3.
They won that game, I thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They won 4-3. So shout out to that. I wish that he could pass Mike Modano in goals. I don't see it happening. I think he has to score 62 goals in general to beat him. I think Mike Modano's at 561 and Patty Kane's at 500. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I do love it. And I wanted to ask, too, before we left, your favorite Patrick Kane moment. Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think that'd be.
Exactly. But, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I did want to kind of touch on before we kind of close out and that was kind of one thing on my notes that I had that I wanted to kind of bring up earlier in the show and completely forgot was with how many teams have been doing well, I guess, this year and the abundant number of teams that are able to get into the playoffs and not get into the playoffs. And this is something that we can talk on more next week. But do you think that there should be something that the NHL and Gary Bettman should restructure for the playoffs to make it to where it's, I guess, structured differently in case you have teams that are so many different teams that are playing well throughout the season, and then it's a fight, more or less of a fight to get into the playoffs? Or do you think the structure of the playoffs and how everything is currently good.
I think they should go back to like the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, stuff like that. But for right now, like the structure feels okay. And I'm gonna say that lightly just because we've seen like Colorado, like in the West, we've seen like Colorado, Dallas go up against each other in the first round. Not like a conference final, but like a first round. That's always like juggernauts. And then then you see whoever wins that battle, they kind of like fade in the playoffs, so to speak. So the system we have is okay, but I probably would just go back to the 1 versus 8 just because we can get better conference finals if we wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of more or less on the same boat of like doing the 1 through 8 or like structure like that again. I've liked the way that they've structured things for a while, but yeah, whenever you have juggernaut games like that where you have Colorado and Dallas, or like we've seen in the past where St. Louis, whenever they were playing really good, they went up against Colorado in the 1 year. I think they was like the second round or something like that they went up against each other, and then but they ended up the winner of that series went up. Obviously, it was Colorado. They went on to win the cup that year. But I mean, you've had different instances in the past where you had teams, like really good teams, going out in the first round because of swaying matchups. And that was one thing that I wanted to kind of touch on briefly, but I wanted your kind of input on that one. But yeah, for all you guys that stuck around to this point, I know we kind of ran a little bit longer than what we were kind of expecting to. Please comment, like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that way you get your notifications anytime that we go through and run our shows. And please, if you guys would like to, please leave comment down below for any topics or anything that you guys would like us to cover in upcoming shows. Anything else, Aaron, that I'm forgetting to bring up before we close out?
No, you're good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again for coming out and joining us for another episode of the 5 Hole on the Variety Sports Network, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.